everybody. Welcome to Spill the Petals Podcast. I am Renato Cruz Sogueco, VP of Digital Strategy and Business Instructor at Floriology.
And I'm Jackie Lacey, Director of Education and Industry Relations with Floriology.
How you been, Jackie? Everything good?
I'm good. We are gearing back up, getting busy, getting ready for what's to come around. The first quarter of the year, super busy.
That's awesome. And we're actually going to be having a class here pretty soon. So we're looking forward to having a lot more students in the building in a couple of weeks. So great. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a huge trend that you may have noticed called self-care. And it's actually been a trend that's been percolating really for about a couple of years. But the reason why we wanted to talk about it in this episode is it's been referenced as a huge opportunity for the floral industry.
Right. As you recall, when we did the holiday trends presentation, it was one of the top 10 trends that showed up because people are getting back into taking care of themselves after spending a lot of time at home. Because we were forced to over the last couple of years. Everyone sort of took the approach that this is important to take care of yourself and look about what I like.
And a lot of the research firms, and we're going to quote or cite a few stats and examples from them on why this trend is so huge, but you just hit the nail on the head on what is really spurring this on. And that's, of course, been the COVID era, right? But let's talk about self-care, because I think a lot of people may not know what it is.
Right.
So, as I do, I scoured the internet, and I've basically found an amalgam of definitions of what self-care is or should be. And it's defined as a multidimensional, multifaceted process of purposeful engagement in strategies that provide healthy functioning and enhance your well-being.
Now let's just put that in people
talk. Yeah.
I care about myself.
Yeah.
That's basically what we mean.
Yeah. So, and literally in people speak, it describes really the conscious act that a person takes, like any person, in order to promote their own physical, mental, and emotional health. So I mentioned, these three things, but in further research, a lot of folks have kind of expanded what that may include. It's not only, like emotional well-being, healthy living, but it could also be financial.
Well, and especially when it deals with florists, or why we're concerned with being cognizant of what's going on. That is our surroundings, having plants, flowers, music, the things that we want that promote our well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for our audio podcast listeners, we're going to be providing a few stats here. And if you want to check out the visuals for this, certainly tune in to our YouTube version of the podcast, and you'll be seeing it on that version. But this is how big this trend is. So according to Google search trends, self-care related searches increased by 250% since 2019 to 2021. That's pretty amazing. And there's a McKinsey survey where they surveyed close to 8,000 consumers in 6 countries. Close to 80% of the respondents say that they believe that wellness is important to them. Makes sense? 42% of them consider it a top priority. So as Jackie mentioned and alluded to, there's a huge market in the making or existing and will only grow. So further, McKinsey says that they estimate the global wellness market at the current market, at more than $1.5 trillion with an annual growth up to 2026 of 5 to 10%. So it says here that a rise in both consumer interest and purchasing power presents a tremendous opportunity for many companies. particularly as we talked about, personal wellness rebounds from this whole COVID era that we're in. So let's just ruminate on that. There's, like people always talk about, ride the wave before it crests. So I think we're in that position. Any thought on that?
Well, I mean, yeah, when I look at that stats that we're seeing and
Mm-hmm.
these changes, trends that we're seeing, a lot of it I think is generational. When I look back to when I first had shops 30, 40 years ago, and got into the industry, you couldn't send yourself flowers. Some people did it to maybe make their spouse jealous, or to because someone else wasn't, or to throw someone off about something else that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't do that. You didn't admit that you were taking care of yourself in that manner. The way that today's generation embraces that, it's all comes into play with that health life balance or work life balance,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's this generation leading us in the aspect that we need to take care of ourselves, and part of that is our well-being and surroundings that make us feel better too.
We don't often disagree, and we're not, because I agree with you. But there's a stat out there that that says that among the generational demographics that view self-care as important, it's actually the boomers, more
Because we've
boomers.
not been allowed to.
So you
We've
think
been
it's
denied that. And so now it's okay for us to feel. And I really do believe that, because it wasn't something, having a shop 40 years ago
Mhm,
wasn't
mhm.
something that you really ever had on your radar, that if something did come in that and someone was buying flowers for themselves, first thing we thought about is, what are they doing they don't want somebody else to know about? Where today, when someone buys something, treats themselves, is concerned about that well-being, or wants to send that well-being bouquet
Mhm.
that we see popping up every now and then, it's okay, because it is acceptable.
So the stats do support that, because as the demographic grows older, then the self care happens more. Like, so right now, the particular stat is that 47% of millennials believe in the importance of self care. Then boomers, 57%, and then when you get up to the traditionalist, it's upwards to 70%. Of course, Xers were left out. I couldn't find that stat, but it is important to me. I guess we're somewhere in between the millennials and the boomers.
So before we move on,
Mhm.
what you're saying is that you would disagree with me, but I'm right.
Well, you're right. With the stats, disagree with you to a certain degree, but I agree, or they agree with you. Um, but I certainly feel it's you're right. Among the older generation, they probably do have a little bit more income and time,
Right.
to be spending on themselves, and especially as the older generations move into retirement, you got to take care of yourself,
You do.
right? So.
Most of the areas, even that they're moving to,
Mhm.
communities they're moving to, support that even more, with all the benefits and the extras that are provided.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about how potentially the flower industry could leverage this trend. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about a handful of sub trends, and I'm going to challenge Jackie to give us a potential ways that a retail florist or a floral business could leverage a particular sub trend that I mentioned. So the first sub trend I'd like to mention is that this whole wellness thing, in terms of the products and the services that people say will grow mostly from this, it's most of those services are not traditional medical practices. In
Right.
fact, they outline that people are looking for alternative ways to improve their wellness. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think when we look at health care in general,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you start getting into the baby boomers and the traditionalists, we already have to deal with enough when it comes to pills and creams, salves, all of that things that we start finding become part of our lives. And we want those, natural, what can I do that's natural and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have chemicals and doesn't add one more layer? Because all of those working together in your body and your surroundings also affect each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in looking at those things specifically is where we get a lot of the idea of the well-being bouquet, the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
well-being gift basket, the things that promote things you can do on your own, a nice long bath, quiet candlelight, soothing tea. Might not be everyone's cup of tea, but certainly it can provide a atmosphere that's conducive to self-healing.
Agreed. And we will talk about more of some of the studies that a lot of the organizations in the industry that have put out that could really help you in bolstering your
Mhm.
marketing. But before we get that, let's move on to the second sub trend that was identified, and that's personalization. And specifically, yes, this is from the Kinsey study. Um, but their recommended strategy for companies is to develop personalized marketing capabilities to target the precise consumer segments that may be most interested in your products. So we had given you a clue of what generations are very much into self-care, and as we shared, the older you get, that's your that's your target demographic. So any thoughts on that from a florist perspective?
Well, again, when we talked about trends and looking specifically on the holiday trends from
Hmm.
this past year to this coming year, one of the big trends is personalizing. And that came down to gifts. One of the things that they saw is with inflation, with supply challenges, all of the other challenges that surrounded gift buying this year, a lot of homemade gifts were going to be on the radar to create because you could personalize it to the recipient. Someone doesn't like peppermint, then you can get something else. You can make something else. Someone doesn't like blue, you can
Hmm.
make them something in green. But personalizing also extends to I hate to say branding, but like wearing a logo shirt or making something that is specifically for that person that you're going to give it to,
Hmm. Hmm.
and making those services, because I think services are super important for the retail to segment to keep in mind, that will set you apart from your
Hmm. Hmm.
competition.
Hmm.
By offering more services, you're also taking care of the customers you already have,
Hmm.
which is super important today. It's hard enough to get them. Don't let them want to go somewhere else.
Hmm.
By offering services such as embroidering and personalizing
Hmm.
and representing them in many different ways. But I think that being there to help guide your customer through how to personalize the things they can get from you will help increase your revenue in those areas as well.
Yeah, that Jackie jumped ahead, and um, the third big sub trend that is on this list are services. So you're right. I agree. That's an area where florists could really
Oh yeah.
thrive and literally deliver um, to accommodate or to leverage this huge trend. Um, the last sub trend, and this is not something not necessarily maybe a small mom and pop could do, uh, is hire an influencer. So I think for larger brands,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty easy to do. They could go on Instagram. They find the most popular person that they could find in terms of self care and pay them a pile of money to promote their brand. But I know that it may not necessarily be realistic for our industry, given we're a collection of smaller businesses. But I think this will segue into our next thing about leveraging the resources that we have. My recommendation, and I believe that we'll probably be in agreement with this, is that you could be the influencer
Right.
in your local community. You don't need to hire someone for 30 grand to promote a product and it goes out to millions of followers. And if you think about it, that's not necessarily relevant to what you're trying to offer to your local community, right?
But it is your responsibility to promote yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
promote your business, promote your brand. And so in those instances where a small organization might not be able to hire someone to do that for them, everything you need to know on what you need to do can be found right there, or I don't have my phone on right here.
We don't have that prop.
It's right. It's actually it is 100% at your fingertips. You can
That's
get someone to guide you through that. You can find
Mhm.
all the information so that you can become
Ask
that
us.
local influencer, not just in your immediate or local area, but also in all of those areas that you might serve, as far as in a zip code or delivery basis, and get comfortable with mailing, because that will expand your opportunity to serve other areas as well.
Well, like we talked about that there are actually resources already available for you and they are 100% relevant to the flower business because it's actually floral organizations that have put together these resources just so you could leverage this whole self-care craze. And the first organization we highly advise you look into is Calflowers and their That Flower Feeling
Right.
campaign. So they developed this campaign, I think now more than a year ago. And they, out of their own pocket, they hired a well-known marketing firm out of Holland to develop this campaign where they have videos, social media posts, all and free to you. So all you need to do is go to thatflowerfeeling.org, thatflowerfeeling.org. And I believe if you go under partners and just click on the email and just say, hey, sign me up. I'd love to get access to all these free social media and art assets. They'll provide you a link and you could download them again for free and start using them to promote your business as a self-care alternative. Like I know
Well,
you've seen all this stuff.
and
So
I think it's important to just mention to anybody that might be listening or seeing this,
Mhm.
that one of the great things about this promotion from Calflowers, it promotes all flowers. It's
Correct.
not just promoting one particular
right.
business or one particular type, or the hand type bouquet, or designed, whatever. It promotes the feeling that flowers give everyone, and that is a benefit to all of us. The more flowers that are sold, the better it is for all of us.
And of course, that we happen to chat with those guys on a regular basis, and that was a purposeful thing, because I know that florists, there's a lot of competition out there, grocery store, online, what have you. But I think the folks that could probably leverage this the most are the retail florists.
Right.
So although the messages in that campaign are generic, it's still a great way to tie in your business with this craze.
What are some of the other places that we can check out to help support this?
Well, if you're a member of the Society of American Florists and you log into their website, here, I'll just give the full URL and I'll put it on the video version. If you go to safnow.org/health benefits research / you will have access to all the studies that SAF has done, I would say more than 2 decades or close to 2 decades. So I'm just going to give you a sample or, repeat some of the research that they provide. And you'll see that I guess SAF was quite progressive in this because a lot of this research, again, happened 10, 15 years ago, but it's still obviously very relevant now. So they have 6 studies that I found that you could check out. First is the flowers and stress relief. And this is research from the University of North Florida that shows flowers reduce stress. We all know, being in the industry, that's what flowers do, but they have lots of great messaging in that research that you could leverage. The second one is the emotional impact of flowers, and I know that's a little older one. That's from Rutgers University. A gift of flowers creates instant delight, increases life satisfaction and enjoyment. Makes sense, and you have research to back it up. Third is Home Ecology of Flowers from Harvard University. People feel more compassion toward others, have less worry and anxiety, and feel less depressed when fresh flowers are present in the home. Okay. Fourth one, again, this could apply to your older customers. The study is called Flowers and Senior Citizens, again from Rutgers. Flowers ease depression, inspire social networking, and refresh memory as we age. Fifth, flowers and plants in the workplace. So we're shifting at the job to the job, and this is from Texas A&M University. Women and men demonstrate more innovative thinking, generating more ideas and original solutions to problems in work environments that include flowers and plants. And lastly, the power of giving flowers, again from Rutgers. And this study presents how you could use flowers, the giving flowers, to convey special messages and all the emotion that is tied to it. So lots of resources for
lots, and that's just that's just what's available at SAF. Again, there's several places that you can look.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of us out here willing to help and guide you in those aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So at your fingertips.
Well, just from my experience, just with developing social media campaigns and content campaigns, go there, download all this stuff, create a calendar for the whole year, right? Grab some really catchy, stats and messages from all this research and convert them into social posts and blogs. Write scripts, do video just like this, throw it on social. And I guarantee you will start gaining a lot of traction with this type of information, especially when there's so much interest in this trend.
Well, it's all about being proactive rather than being reactive. If we're proactive and preparing and gathering and making a calendar, I love being organized. I think it's incredibly important. Will help make you more successful, and it will help create that pathway to success so that you're ahead of the trend rather than following behind everyone else.
That's all I have, Jackie.
That's all you have? I can't believe it. I was waiting for him to continue to scroll. I do want to talk just a little bit about the well-being bouquet, because it has been a term that's been kicked around quite a bit for the last couple of years, and there's been some great success with flower shops doing that as a promotion. So it might be something that you want to do on a local basis. What local resources do you have available that you could bring in and promote that well-being bouquet that also is localized? Because that's one of the first places you want to start. And then the healing care of plants, because we all know plants are a huge trend right now.
Big trend, right?
And staying on top of what's the plant of the year. This year happens to be
orchid.
The orchid is the flower.
Oh, flower.
But the plant is the zebra calathea.
Okay.
It's the one that's kind of like dark green, almost looks like watermelon.
Yep.
On the foliage, that is beautiful. It looks great in design. Jump on and share that information with your followers on your social connections. Show them that you're the expert to come to, and promote this whole being of well-being, so that there's another reason for them to connect, because it's all about connection and engagement, promoting ourselves. And then when we've done all of that, go home and take care of yourself, because you can only continue to grow, flourish, and lead the way, especially for those of us that are only one or two in a shop, if you are taking care of yourself as well.
Well, great advice, Jackie. And, be sure if you are in the audio podcast, to check out the visual version. We'll certainly put a lot of these stats on screen. And you could catch the video version on our Facebook page and our YouTube video channel. So check those out. So appreciate you you listening in or watching. Jack, any last words?
No, just as always, remember there is no use crying over spilled petals.